Hi everyone, I hope you're well, thanks for clicking on the video. I just got done watching episode 7 of Cyberpunk Edgerunners. It's another good episode, but it's the first one of the season where I've walked away feeling not 1000% satisfied. They did a couple of things amazing, but they did a few things that I would have preferred for them to have done differently personally. Like I said, I still enjoyed this episode massively, right? Like if I had to give it a rating, I guess we'll leave it to the end of the video, but it wouldn't be a low rating at all. I really enjoyed the episode. There were a few nods to the video game, some characters that if you'd played the game you'll recognise, so it was cool to see that. It was also nice to see Rebecca back on the screen. I predicted she'd return this episode at the end of the last review we did. We also got a really interesting look into the past of Lucy, so we'll be going into all of these things throughout the video. Firstly, I actually want to start off with a question to you guys. I was a little bit confused, right? I had thought during last episode, Kiwi had been killed by Maine, right? But she's back in it now, supposedly, and they didn't really explain. I'm so confused. So if you guys could explain that to me, how she's alive at all, I would really appreciate that, because I thought she was dead by the end of the last episode. And rather convincingly at that, right? Like I thought Maine had finished her for sure, and they never really explained or gave any reason as to how she's back. So please, like I said, leave a comment down below, let me know, because I want to know. I was so confused. So this episode started off at some time in the future. They don't actually say how big of a time jump they've had since the last episode, but it seems as though a lot has changed, right? Like David Martinez has managed to just build this massive reputation for himself. He's now absolutely shredded with a fuck ton more cyberware installed. And we never got a look into what that process was like, which is kind of a shame for me. I was looking forward to seeing the gradual process of him getting more and more cyberware and what that would do. But they've kind of, because of this time jump, we've missed a lot of that, which is a shame. But as you can tell, all the new cyberware is working wonders on David, right? Because he is an absolute tank now. He is more than capable of running this crew, which is where he's found himself now that Maine's died. He is like the new leader, which is another thing I would have liked some more insight into, right? I'd have liked to have seen that process, whether it be quick or whether you do a deeper dive into it. I want to see him like go back to Rebecca's apartment the day after Maine, Dario, all those guys died, and I want to see their reaction to that and how they decided on David running the crew now. Like why did we not get to see any of that? You know what I mean? It seemed like that would have been cool to watch, but nonetheless, like I said, despite all of those things, this episode was still great. They worked on the relationship between David and Lucy, which is always gold, right? You know how I feel about that by now. Like those guys' chemistry is perfect. And the way that she was able to open up to David about her past, that was awesome. Like you've always wondered throughout this season, like Lucy is she's a different kettle of fish, you know what I mean? So it all kind of makes more sense now, seeing the way that she was raised for Militech to be this like elite netrunner. And dear God, did it work, because she is amazing. She is like, I think her and David's relationship is my favorite thing about this show. Despite all the action, everything, that's my favorite thing about this show. The way they've made us feel for these guys and just care for them. You don't get that in many other shows, I'll tell you that right now. This is the first I've felt this way in probably years. David's character arc and the development of his character as a whole is just fucking fantastic. It's one thing I've been echoing throughout all of my reviews so far, is just the character development of this crew of characters. It's just amazing. None of these guys are the same as who they were at the beginning. David especially, he has just taken everything Maine had taught him, everything Lucy had taught him and the rest of the guys, and just ran with it, you know what I mean? He is such a strong character now, you know what I mean? Look at him. I think I'm gonna have to do a video on that actually. Like once I'm done reviewing all of this season, I think I'd like to do a video on comparing David at the end of the season to what he was like at the beginning, because I think that would be a really interesting video. If you think that's a good idea, leave a like and let me know in the comments down below, because I think I've convinced myself I'm gonna make that video. Just look at the apartment this scene took place in, right? These guys live in an amazing apartment now. Like business is going great. They're building this amazing reputation for themselves. David, at least, right? Lucy too, but David in particular. And they're just balling in money, right? It's kind of out of control. These guys have turned out to be such a success despite Maine's death, Dario's death. It's a shame we didn't get to see more of that because of the time jump. We missed a lot. But this is the scene I was telling you guys about earlier, like the insight into Lucy's past. This was so fascinating. They even told us about how 50 years ago, right, this is based in 2077, the old web was hacked and lost, and with that, all of this crucial information of Arasaka and Militech was gone. So they had Lucy and these other children raised like cattle to become like these amazing netrunners so that they could dip into the old web and try and gather that information. And the way that they detailed that in these scenes was fantastic, so I really enjoyed that a lot about this episode. So I really hope you guys recognize, despite there being things I would have personally changed about this episode, if I had to give it a rating, which I'm going to right now, it's still a 5 out of 5 rating. And you might think, what? How can you give it a perfect score when you've just labeled all of these things you would change? Because they did so many things right. This scene in particular between Lucy and David is everything I love about this show. Their relationship, I enjoyed this so much. It was great to see Rebecca back. I always enjoy when they give some nods to the video game too. We had a couple of them this episode. If I had to rate it just off my enjoyment, it would be undeniably a 5 out of 5. It's just, there are a few things I would have liked to have seen them do differently. The main thing being I would have liked to have seen some context from the time between the time jump after last episode. I'd have liked to have seen a lot of that, actually. So it's because of that I'm going to give this episode a 4 out of 5. This is the first episode I've not given a perfect rating. It's damn near perfect, right? 4 out of 5, that's a great rating. It's still a fantastic episode. And I think most people, if they were to rate it, they'd probably give it a 5 out of 5, 10 out of 10. It's just those things I would have liked to have seen done different that make it hard for me to give this episode a perfect rating. But like I said, this is just personal preference. I couldn't recommend you guys watch this show anymore. This show is amazing, and please watch it for your sake. It's fantastic. And so that brings us to the end of the video, guys. If you have any thoughts and opinions about this episode or about my review of the episode, please leave a comment down below. I'll get back to you when I have the time. Leave a like if you enjoyed and subscribe to my channel for more content. There's way more on the way, way more Cyberpunk Edgerunners content, even after the season's finished, because there's so much I want to look into and research and talk about. And I hope to see you guys there for it. Thank you.